Good evening, everybody, to those in the hall here and also to those looking in on the internet. Welcome along to the Buddhist Centre again tonight for our regular Wednesday midweek meditation. And tonight I have great pleasure in presenting to you Mr. Drew Bellamy. Drew is a past president of this society. He was the president here just over 3 to 4 years ago, I guess, and is a very esteemed member of the society. Drew is a businessman. He is probably not your archetypical meditator, but he certainly knows a fair bit about meditation and a fair bit about Buddhism. But he also runs a fairly successful business here in Perth and is one of the St George's Terrace crowd.
Oh,
maybe. And indeed a family man as well. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to hand over to Drew, who's going to do tonight's meditation and give us a talk. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for coming, everyone, and anyone who's watching online. You can't see online, but the audience is mainly over this side, so you might see my right-hand side a fair bit. So tonight's format, we've got an hour, and I was just going to do a maybe 20-minute meditation, and then I might do something like a 25-minute talk, and that talk's on Right View tonight. And then we might have 10 minutes for a bit of, I won't say Q&A, because I don't consider myself a lay teacher in any way. We might just have a 10-minute conversation on what was discussed tonight. So we'll start off with the meditation, and I'll give a little guidance as we go. Shall we dim the lights a bit, please? Thanks. Oh, it's all right, Dennis. So, as the light's been dimmed, just gently closing our eyes and settling into the chair or cushion that we're on, and getting a feel for what sort of state your body might be in tonight. There's probably a little bit of tension in the body if you've had a working day and then rushed down some dinner and come here. You might start feeling the body and feeling for this tension, and you might start at your toes. And you might wiggle your toes. And then you might move up to your feet and just make sure they're comfortably placed in whatever position you might be sitting in. And you might feel your calves. Any tension there if you've been on your feet all day. Maybe then your knees. Might be enjoying a good rest as you sit down. If there's any pains in your knees or any pains as you move towards your hips, for those of us that are a bit older, you might just focus briefly on the discomfort and just acknowledge it as being there, being part of the human condition. And then letting it go as you move up. As you move up towards your stomach. Maybe there's some tension there, some anxiety from the rushing and coming and going of the day. Maybe just acknowledge that tension. And give yourself permission to let that tension go, even for this brief meditation. And then moving up to the chest, Is there any tension in the chest? Any tightness? Anything that's stopping you from breathing fully in and releasing the breath fully out? If there is any tightness, maybe you can let it go by just deeply breathing in and not holding, and then deeply breathing out and imagining that the tension dissipates outwards with the out breath. And then moving up to your shoulders. Do they feel tight? This is a place where tension can be in the shoulders. Again, breathing in and imagining that the breath is coming into the shoulders. And as you breathe out, you let go of that tension. Out it comes. And then moving to your neck. Is your neck a bit tight from staring at a computer all day? Can you breathe in deeply and imagine the breath going into the neck, and on the out breath taking the tension away. And then your face. Is your face tight? Is it tight from staring at a screen or a phone or being in conversation all day? Is there any tightness in your face between your eyes or concentration? Can you breathe in? Can you breathe in, and as you breathe out, release that tension. Allow your forehead to relax. And then coming to the breath, the object of this meditation. Keeping up that deep breathing. Feeling the breath come in through the nose, circulating in your body, coming back out again. Just seeing how long you can focus on the breath for. How many times can you feel the breath come in and out before your mind's distracted? 2 times, 3 times, 10 times? Now that your body's relaxed, and there's nowhere to go, can you just focus on the breath? Maybe now your breathing's not as deep, but it's certainly calmer. And as you're breathing, thoughts are coming, but you're letting them go. You're not holding on. You're not annoyed that they're coming, you're just letting them go. And you're letting them go by coming back to the breath and feeling the breath in a calm, measured, relaxed manner. Focusing back on the breath, letting the thoughts come and go. Feeling the body relax, knowing the mind is slowing down. Following the breath, letting thoughts go. Nice and simple. easy, comfortable. Breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose, watching the breath. Checking in with the tensions in the body, and then checking out and going back to the breath. And as we enter the last few minutes of the meditation, again, just checking the parts of the body we checked before. Is there a difference? 3 times, and on the third gong, we'll open our eyes and come out of meditation. Just taking the last minute to come back to the breath. Welcome back. I hope that was good for everyone. I'm a bit too relaxed now to give this talk, so maybe we'll just go home. No, joking. So, 23 minutes gone already, just like that. But very good way to spend 23 minutes. Better than being at work. So tonight's talk, I was going to give it on right view. And how did I come up with this subject? A couple of ways. First of all, I wanted to dedicate this talk to Ajahn Brahmali. And I thought to myself, if Ajahn Brahmali was up the front here, and you gave him a coin and you said, heads and tails, you can choose a talk, what are the 2 talks? He would say, heads, rebirth, tails, right view. So I flicked the coin, and right view it is. And the second reason I wanted to talk about right view was because I have been thinking about it lately in my own circumstance, which has changed a bit since I first started at the Society 15 odd years ago. I think I came through the doors about 2005-ish. And yeah, I've been on quite a trajectory, which probably accumulated in being president on the committee for 2 or 3 years before Dennis. But I remember in the early days, like all typical Westerners, I really got stuck into Buddhism the way that Westerners do it, and that's with a heap of action. And what action's that? Meditation. It's the first thing you see because it's tangible and you can sit there and think that you're doing something, and Western people like doing things. And I remember in the early days, or a few years after the early days, I was a single man and all that, and I was up to 2 meditations a day, 45 minutes to an hour each. And I really felt like I was making some sort of progress somewhere. I wasn't sure where it was going, but I was certain that all that time I was spending sitting on the mat must be going to make me enlightened sooner rather than later. And if I could just meditate more and more and do more retreats and hang around Ajahn Brahm, then most definitely I would get enlightened. It had to be. Anyway, so that didn't happen. I'm not enlightened, and I still don't even really know what it is, which creates a bit of a problem if you're practicing Buddhism. And then I got married, and we've started a family, and I have a newborn boy at home, and I'm running at the same time basically an engineering company that I started, which is in a high growth phase, and it's quite stressful and busy and successful, but you need to be careful what you wish for. So these 2 factors in my life have caused the demise, I suppose, of my meditation. I've gone from potentially 2 hours a day, to finding myself a businessman, family man, where I'm lucky if I can have the time to get in 3 sessions a week. That would be a good week. It's just non-stop at the moment, but it's all a phase. However, it can be disheartening, and I'm giving this personal example because I'm sure that there's lots of lay people in my circumstance where life changes mean that you can't practice as much as you wanted to, and then you get disheartened, and you're running around and doing business and growing a family, and you think, oh well, actually, is this important? It is. I can't get out of it, and my practice is suffering. And I always thought the measurement of a practice was sitting on the couch or the cushion and meditating. But there's this thing called the Noble Eightfold Path, and it has 8 components, and actually meditation's only one component of that. And meditation's at the end of or it's the last step on the Eightfold Path, and on the start is right view. And then, I hope I get this right, right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration or meditation. That's the 8. So meditation's at the end and right view's at the start. And I came into this gig trying to do the end thing, trying to do the meditation and go somewhere special, when really right view's mentioned as the first point because it sets up everything else. And you can waste a lot of time in the meditation hall if you're not paying attention to the other 7 aspects of the path. And again, in the West, I see a neglect of not all parts of the path, but quite a few bits. There's not enough effort put in, and there's too much in the meditation. And I've spent quite a lot of time in Southeast Asian countries on business and also living there, and I go there quite regularly. And they seem to do a better job, not because of this, not because they're better people, but they've had Buddhism a lot longer in their culture, and in the right parts of society, I notice they do tend to put a bit of effort into the other parts of the path, and some of them are just amazed at the amount of focus that Westerners put into the meditation and not into the other bit. So right view is important because it's the start of the path, and I think that if you put a lot of effort into right view, you make everything else much easier. And for the layperson trapped in lay world where time might be at a premium at the moment, I see right view as something that you can utilise on a daily basis, and you can examine and investigate and think about. You can take it to work, you can take it to sport, you can have it in the family life, and you can be thinking, what's the application here? And you can gain insights into right view in everyday life where you don't have to be sitting for an hour a day where you've got a darkened room and peace and quiet, because for me at the moment it's just not possible with a baby in the house. But I can spend time on right view, and that's because right view's more of a philosophical start where you can almost do like theory physics experiments in your head, whereas other parts of the path, like the meditation or right mindfulness, right speech, they're sort of more, I guess not mechanical, but more component-driven aspects of the path. So right view you can take anywhere, and any insights or progress you make on right view affect and improve the other 7 parts of the path. So I thought I'd base my talk on right view on the on something in the suttas, and I've got them all at home, but I particularly like this one, and I recommend getting it as a starting point if you don't have any sutta books. It's fairly reasonably priced, and it's a I think it's a very good distillation of the other four Pali texts, and it's got a great introduction as well. This is available in our library, In the Buddha's Words by Bhikkhu Bodhi. So as far as right view goes in the suttas, there's a ginormous discourse on it in the Majjhima Nikaya number 9, and it wasn't given by the Buddha, it was given by Sariputta, one of his disciples, and he gives broadly 8 ways of approaching right view, of arriving at the right place, and these are all like in a maze or a spider's web. You can start on a subject that's quite different from number 6, and you can still get there, and that's a good thing because people have different personalities and aptitudes, and it's handy that there's many different places you can start to build your right view. I wrote down some of the, I'm going to talk about one tonight, but I wrote down some of the choices you have to contemplate to arrive at right view that are mentioned in the text. And he's talking about the contemplations of consciousness, contemplations of the tates, contemplations of what's wholesome and unwholesome, contemplation of the Four Noble Truths, contemplation of aging and death, and there's a few more, but the one I'm going to talk about tonight is the contemplation of clinging. I'm going to call it attachment. It's called clinging in the Sutta. So you can choose any one you want. This is the one I'm contemplating at the moment, and I arrived at attachment about 2 months ago when I was desperately thinking, how can I investigate this? Because attachment is something easy to relate to in the lay world, because there is so much to be attached to in our regular lives. Sariputta gives 3 main groupings for clinging or attachment. He discusses sensual pleasures. He talks about attachment to views, and I guess opinions. And he talks about attachment to rules and observances, which you could also interpret as structures or the way that things are set in society. So I've been focusing on the attachment of sensual pleasures, and I haven't quite got around to views and rules yet, but sensual pleasures is an easy one in lay life, especially in the 21st century. Really, life is a pleasure dome in our circumstance compared to living 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago. There's so much going on. If you even think about it at an easy level, TVs, radios, movies, posters, foods, vehicles, the abundance of wealth. There's a lot going on, and it's interesting. People say, "Oh, here we are in the 21st century. We get an iPhone every 2 years now. It's fantastic. Netflix is on, and there's endless stream binging on TV shows. What more could you want?" I think that probably living in the Buddha's age, that was much less complicated, with less sensual pleasures, probably had its benefits. And if you read the suttas, you get the feeling that back in that Bronze Age period in central India, or north central, there was a lot of spirituality going on. There was a lot of different religious sects. There was a lot of philosophy going on. There was a lot of open-air debates in public between philosophers and religious men. There were lots of monastic orders. Some of them were close to Buddhism, some of them were way off the mark, some of them were wacky. But the thing is that people were trying, and they were trying for something good because they were trying to better themselves. And maybe they didn't live as long, and maybe they didn't have as many distractions and gadgets, but I feel that you may have had a fairly fulfilling life in in a place like that. Anyway, that's an aside. So I was thinking about attachment and sensual pleasures, and I came to the realisation how difficult it is to discard or beat attachments, and I ended up doing a bit of an experiment on this. So one of my attachments at the moment is food. I've put on 5 kilos since we had the baby, and I've been blaming it on the baby because he can't talk back. But actually, it's not him, it's me. I'm definitely probably comfort eating a bit more because things are stressful. Sleep's getting better now. He's at 4 months. But it's a full-on routine, and I've probably been eating more than I should. And yeah, there's the weight gain. So I've got this attachment to food. So I did an experiment, and I said, right, I'm sick of being 95 kilos. I want to go back to 90. How can I do it? I've tried exercise, I've tried everything, but I'm still stuffing my face. So a few weeks ago, I started experimenting with fasting again. And it was interesting. I went on a fast, and I was just eating 1 meal a day. And I've done fast previously when I was meditating more and not caught up in my current family life and doing 2 days at a time. But this time I wanted to touch base with it again. And the first few days were difficult, and the conditioning you have when there's so much food around, and you could substitute this for whatever, TV or whatever your addiction is. And it was difficult, and then the body protested, and things got fatigued and hungry. And anyway, after about 3 or 4 days, I pushed through, and then it became surprisingly easy. After 4 days of not eating, I was slightly unconditioning my body and just having a meal at night time, and it was fine. And I noticed that previous to this latest experimental fasting, I'd be having 3 decent meals a day and snacking as well, food at work in the fridge or food at home. And my weight didn't really change too much, maybe just a couple of kilos. And then I realised, well, I'm not eating for nutrient. I'm eating really for pleasure and comfort because I'm attached to that. And the fasting sort of woke me up again to the fact that you don't have to be attached. Like, it is possible to downgrade or break some of these attachments, and if you can do it with something as fundamental to the human life as food, then there is hope to break attachments to other things in your life. And as a layperson, you can't really go all the way. Like, there's no way you're going to break attachments to people you love, like your family. Like, it would be impossible for me to break an attachment with my newborn son, which is a good thing because the human race has to continue, I suppose. But we can reduce it, and this is a good thing. However, you then examine it a bit more and you say, okay, so I can break the attachment for food to a degree and just step away from that a little bit. And maybe I can break an attachment to sitting down in front of the TV at night and going, oh, I feel like a zombie, I'll just watch something and have a distraction. But unfortunately in lay life, when you look around, there's so many attachments. There's so many attachments going on, and they can end up very, very, very subtle as well. So I have in my garage no less than 4 motorbikes in my garage, and that's an attachment. What started out as, I'll get 1 motorbike and for a hobby I'll do it up, turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, all of a sudden you've got an addiction. You've got a very strong attachment, and no one needs 4 motorbikes. I don't even need 1 really. So these things can sneak up on you in very subtle ways, because most people would say, oh, you're not attached to motorbikes. That's just a hobby, you panel and paint and whatever. But no, actually, it's an attachment, because why haven't I sold them? Why do I still have them? So the good news is that you can lessen your attachments, and that would free up time in your life and free up, I guess, thinking space for the Dharma. And probably, I know for sure, from my early days in meditation, when you have less attachments, you have better meditations because there's less going on in your life. Unfortunately, the bad news is that there are a lot of attachments, and a lot of them are very subtle, and suddenly you start to realise the power, I guess, of the monkhood, because these people are being taken and placed in the monastery, and all that stuff's being cut off cold turkey, like coming off heroin. And I guess for some of them it works, and then for some of them actually it doesn't, because there is a fairly high turnover in the monkhood. I seem to remember it's something like only 5% or something of monks who ordain end up dying in robes. So even down at the monastery, when your attachments can be reduced and you're in a very good conducive environment, it's still hard going. So I will just summarise now. So we have 10 minutes left, and would say that if you are a lay person out there and your life's a little bit busy at the moment, and you can't quite get to the meditation hall all the time, you can't quite do the practice maybe you were doing before, you can do things like contemplate right view, and you can contemplate them quite deeply, and you can carry out interesting little experiments like I did the last few weeks, and sort of test it, see where it ends up. And then when circumstances conspire and you do have a bit more time, and maybe your kids are a bit older, or your business is slower, or you change to a less stressed job, then when you are able to possibly ramp up that meditation again in conjunction with the other parts of the Eightfold Path, you'll have some confidence. You'll have some confidence that you weren't just sitting there on the cushion meditating, hoping that some angel was going to come down and enlighten you. Like, you were out there practically working at it, investigating different angles, and I guess had the courage to do it. So don't despair. I'm trying not to despair. Please investigate the other aspects of the Eightfold Path. They all contribute, and each of those aspects is a Dharma talk in its own, right thought, right action, etc. But I'd say start with right view. If you've only done a bit of meditation, you're sort of stalled a bit, or your life's become busier, you're wondering why there's not much progress, go back to basics, read a bit up on right view in the suttas, come down and listen to Ajahn Brahm or Mali when they're giving a talk like that, do some experimentation at home, and see where it leads you. Okay, I'll wrap that up there, and that leaves us 10 minutes. If anyone would like to contribute something, or maybe one of their own experiences, or ask a question. Thank you. Oh, Dennis is breaking out the microphone. Is it going to be used? Has anyone got anything? Maybe even if there's some questions online. I'm not sure, Colleen, if people are able to write in like they do on a Friday night. And just while we're waiting for a question, I'd like to say that I think that this Wednesday night, 1 hour format for the lay people is a good idea for the society. It allows lay people to, I wouldn't say aspire to teach, but to get up and have a go. And there's nothing like getting up here and talking to a group of people about Dharma to sharpen up your practice. You want to be confident. You don't want to be overconfident. Those people get into trouble. But yeah, you want to be confident. So I hope that we see some other lay people up here, and it continues on. Of course, you know, the ultimate authorities, as far as this place goes, in the Dharma is the monks, and Brahma Brahmali and the others are very well learned and versed, but it's nice. It's nice to have a little layperson contribution because there are many people in society who have spent decades on the lay side of the fence in the practice, and yeah, they have something to contribute. Okay, what do we got? Any questions? Any questions from anyone? Is anyone new here who wants to know anything about Buddhism? I'll even just throw it open to that. Does anyone want to know about, I don't know what, karma, rebirth, meditation? Why do the monks wear orange? Any questions at all? I'm game.
Why do they wear orange?
What? Yeah. Why did I say that? Now I've been caught out.
Hello, Drew. My name's Dorian.
Hi.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting one staying in the back of my mind, but I know it's probably not a crucial question.
Oh, no. So I did the 2014 trip to India with my favourite monk, Brahmali, and a whole group of other people. And we went to some really undeveloped parts of India where Buddhism originated in the state of Bihar, B-I-H-A-R. And we saw people wearing, in the modern day, those same robes, lay people. But they were sort of whites and light yellows. I'm talking about males as well, right out in the back agriculture areas, where literally there's horse and cart being dragged along the road in a country that's got nuclear missiles. So I just think that the monks dyed their robes an ochre colour because that was the fashion of the day, and it's basically the equivalent of me dyeing this all orange so you know that I'm a monk. And then the second thing they did was, of course, shave their heads to show that they were ascetics. So the orange is just a natural colour, easily available in that part of the world, in the ochres, and it's just to signify that they were monastics. But their dress code, actually, for the day was quite contemporary. Yeah, it's interesting.
It's an earthy colour too.
It's a what, sorry?
Earthy colour.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. I recommend for anyone who's getting into Buddhism or is into it for a long time and hasn't been to one of those trips to India that get organised about every second year at the Buddhist Society. It's well worth the, whatever it was, I think it was $8,000, including airfares and accommodation and the buses. They're very, very, very good trip. Interesting from a historical point of view. Like we went to archaeological sites and looked at things, and then we went to places that you read about, in the suttas like Vulture's Peak, and did a meditation. And yeah, it's quite educational and inspiring to do a pilgrimage trip like that. If they're still running, I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, saved
just
by a question
before we finish,
online.
Drew, would you like
Yep.
to maybe just make a bit of a comment around around past lives in Buddhism, and just I'm only just thinking here that people do generally, the lay community especially, do have a hard job sometimes to bring the idea of past lives into their mind and into Buddhism. And I wonder what you might just comment on all of that.
Yeah, that is a whole massive Dharma talk in itself. People write books about it, have conferences. So my personal position is that I 100% subscribe to past lives and rebirths. Absolutely, without a doubt, concrete truth. And you can arrive at this personally from different insights or experiences. But looking at Buddhism as a philosophy, it just doesn't work without rebirth. It can't operate because of the tenet of karma. If you don't have rebirth, karma can't work. And from what I've seen, karma works. But karma's not going to work over 20, 40, 60, 80 years. It has to have time to flow through and, I guess, give fruition. The shortcut 2-minute way I can try and prove rebirth and karma would be the question of how come some people are born like us, like me, in nice countries to good families and get an education and don't have disease. We can have difficult lives, but surely we had a first head start being born in this circumstance we're in now. And how can people in the other 80% of the population's planet be born in slums with diseases and all sorts of horrible things going on? That trip to India, we went to some pretty poor places, and living was atrocious. Like, I would probably rather be dead than have to put up with what some of those people were born into. And then you talk to other people in the same country in a slightly better circumstance, and you realise they're just like you. They have the same IQ, aspirations, aptitudes, desires. It's the same. So what is differentiating Drew Bellamy being born in a privileged position in this country compared to Mr. Singh, who we met in the gutter in India, compared to his contemporary Mr. Prashet in middle-class India? Like, that, we're all the same, but you can only say, oh, well, the scientists, and I've got 2 science degrees, the scientists would say, oh, it's just randomised luck. But I don't see any randomised luck in the universe. Things work in ecosystems under structure, with evolution driving forward in the arrow of time, while on a daily basis beings are atrophying and decaying. Like, there's no randomised luck. And so one aspect to investigate and think about, could rebirth be true, is karma, and how come in the lotto of birth, how come my son gets born into a wealthy Western family, and then how come some kid in Africa hasn't got enough to eat and is going to be dead in 2 years, and yet their abilities are the same? Surely it would have to be something to do with karma, and therefore, if you investigate, the birth of a child in different circumstances, it must be coming from before he was born, and so it must be coming from karma, and karma must go over lifetimes. That's just one way to objectively look at rebirth. There's all sorts of studies as well about kids with strange memories that they couldn't possibly know at the age of 18 months when they start talking. All that stuff is out there as well. But just for tonight, I'd say investigate what I've talked about on the path of wondering if rebirth is true. I'll leave it at that. Thanks, Dennis. Alrighty. Oh, great, 2 questions. There must be at least 2 other people watching. The good thing about not many people watching is if I say the wrong thing and make mistakes, it doesn't really matter, right? If you're Ajahn Brahm and you've got thousands watching and you make a mistake, people are writing in emails and protesting. All right, I'll put on my glasses because I'm getting old. Oh, Carol Smith, I'd love your views on karma and what it means to you. Okay, so I'll just take a slightly different angle because we talked about it with rebirth. My views on karma. Stay out of trouble. Have you ever seen RoboCop in the movie? Stay out of trouble. That's the easiest thing not to heap misery in your current life, is stay out of trouble. Follow the 5 precepts: no stealing, killing, misbehaving. Just don't do that, and you'll be okay for a while. Unfortunately, sometimes karma can definitely take a few lifetimes to catch up. If it's particularly heavy or particularly good karma, it can just take a while. See, people say, oh, that guy stabbed that man there, so his karma is going to come and get him. And then nothing happens and he just goes to jail and the other guy's dead. And then you say, oh, well, karma mustn't work because, there wasn't an immediate retribution for the crime that he committed against another person. But things take time. I've learned that building a business takes time. That took 12 years. And so, going to university takes time. Things take time. And karma's not an instant justice system like in some Hollywood movie. It takes time. And then the Buddha talks about this in the suttas. I can't remember what it is, but it's something about, I can't remember the name of the sutta, but this woman says to the Buddha, oh, why is this woman born ugly? Why is this woman born beautiful? And there's many, many examples. And I think the answers for those two was, the woman who was born ugly, she was an angry person previously, and the karma of that anger is now playing out. And the woman who was born beautiful, she was a kind-hearted woman in a previous life, and now that's playing out. So that all sounds nice. Unfortunately, karma also runs out. So unless you're doing more, I wouldn't say good stuff, unless you're staying out of trouble and you're enjoying the benefits of your karma now, it'll stop, and you have to keep staying out of trouble and not do bad things, because just like you can enjoy the good, you can also pay for the bad. That's probably a bit of a long answer, but I hope it was helpful. Carol Smith. And we might do one more question here. Alrighty, Tom from the Czech Republic. G'day, Tom. Thanks for checking in from Czechoslovakia. Sorry. Do you have any tips for recognising the right view in situations when we are not sure what the right thing to do is? Okay. So I would say that you don't use right view as a instant judgment system for a course of action. Right view is more of a underlying, broad-based, philosophical view, the right view. And then on top of that, you have the tools for the right thing to do in a given situation. So let's use an example. Let's say you're in a shop and you're a shopkeeper and you're serving someone, and they're being very agitated and very rude, and you're losing your temper. What do? You think about right view and you go, oh no, actually that's way too complicated. I'm in the heat of the moment with this guy. What else have I got? I've got the Noble Fourfold Truths, suffering, cause of suffering, cease suffering, the Eightfold Path, back to the Eightfold Path. What have we got? Right view, too heavy. Right thought, well, I'm arguing with the guy. Right speech, right speech. I'm in an argument. What can right speech teach me? And I'll probably need to brush up a bit, but it would be something like, don't use harsh words, don't insult people. Even if you are capable of pointing out the truth to someone, you're a moron. Don't do that because you're going to offend them. Don't lie. Oh, that guy's a moron, but I'm going to tell him that he's a really good guy, so I can, get something from him. So Tom, you would in that situation, you would just think about the Eightfold Path, and knowing right speech. How can I apply it to the situation? If it's another situation, you might say, "Oh, this is right action," or another situation at home, a domestic situation. There's a problem in the family. Right mindfulness. What is my behaviour doing? What am I projecting? What am I doing wrong that's causing this problem on the domestic front? Check mindfulness. what I've been saying, what I've been doing? Have I been callous? That, Tom, I think would be the way that you try and resolve what is the right thing to do. And then on top of that, you can always also just use instinct. If you're online now, the very fact that you're listening to this talk most probably means you're a good person. Even if you could be a good person in a bad circumstance, you might be in jail. So I've taught Buddhism in jail. No, I wasn't in jail, I was visiting. And, you know, there's even people in jails that come to the realisation they've been doing the wrong thing and they want to do the right thing. And just the fact that you're investigating Buddhism means you're already on the path, and trust your instincts. If you're in a situation where you've got to make a choice and there's probably conflict, what's your gut say? Leave it, take it, do this, do that. Listen to that. Then back it up with something like that situation, right speech. Okay, so I should be polite to this guy and just try and get him out the store and not inflame the situation. My instinct says that, yes. Right speech says that. Great, let's go. Let's go with that path. Okay, so there we are at 2 minutes past 8. Unless there was any other questions, queries, we can probably wrap it up, I suppose. Thanks to everyone online who's watching. Hopefully there's more than 2 people, but if there's not, it doesn't matter. And thanks everyone for coming down tonight to the hall as well. I appreciate it. It's not just me talking to Dennis. It's not just Dennis introducing me to me and then Dennis watching me. It's very good. So we'll just turn around and pay respects to the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, and we'll just do three bows. Unfortunately, I'm not really a good enough Buddhist to remember the Pali chanting, but when the monks are back, they can help you out with that. Thank you. And for anyone left in the hall, myself and Dennis might just go grab a hot drink before we lock up, so you're welcome to come over and have a chat. It'd be good. Thanks. I'm going to put this back.